Joining me now is Republican Congresswoman from New York and House GOP Chairwoman Elise Stefanik. Congresswoman, welcome to the program. So glad to have you here tonight.
Good to be with you.
What do you make of Governor Hochul's new unconstitutional gun law? She's targeting law-abiding gun owners while turning a blind eye to the violent criminals that we're seeing not just in New York City, but also in a number of cities in upstate New York.
Well, this is what we see from virtually every Democrat elected official in America, but particularly in New York. They have shredded the Constitution to try to achieve and pursue their gun-grabbing agenda, and it's unconstitutional on its face. Remember, this law was rushed through in the dark of night as a response to the Supreme Court ruling the unconstitutional concealed carry process in New York State. The Supreme Court ruled correctly that it was unconstitutional. And what did New York Democrats do? They doubled down and put an even worse law in place, essentially categorizing law-abiding gun owners in my district, in parks, so the Adirondack Park, they categorize them as felons. You pointed out the cancellation of a Civil War reenactment. In my district, we have historical reenactments for the Revolutionary War, for the War of 1812, all the time. It's an important part of our values. It's an important aspect of our history. It's an important part of our local economy. And we've seen update after update that the negative consequences of this law are that those events can no longer happen. We love our historical reenactors. It's not partisan. It's about teaching the next generation history. And you're right. This is an attempt for Democrats to distract from their crime crisis. Crime is skyrocketing across New York State and across America because they're prioritizing going after hardworking, innocent, law-abiding citizens rather than tough on crime going after the criminals themselves.
Yeah, and it's so true. And I really feel for the Civil War reenactment group. I mean, is there any chance that it, or the fire department's gun show, is there any chance that that can resume, or would the law have to change? I mean, it's really unbelievable to me that these people would be considered felons.
Well, the law has to change. The law should be fully repealed. We will challenge this law in court, much like we did the concealed carry unconstitutional overreach in New York State. I signed the amicus brief. I will do so again and help lead that effort to challenge the constitutionality of this law in that it is unconstitutional. And we will stand by and stand side by side those historic reenactors. I mean, these are local leaders. These are fire departments. These are people who are involved in local community organizations who have done these for years. I grew up going to historical reenactments of Revolutionary War battles, and it is a shame that now our next generation of young people and our citizens aren't getting exposed to this. So we will challenge this in court, and then we also need to make sure that voters turn out this November so that we have a big red wave to fire Kathy Hochul and the Albany Democrats, as well as Joe Biden once and for all.
Well, I have to say, I think there's a really good chance of that in New York State. I think a lot of people are going to come out in the midterms. And I think a lot of people are angry right now as a result of the rhetoric we're hearing, not only from Governor Hochul, but from the Biden administration. You've seen Joe Biden consistently calling to ban all assault weapons. Of course, he's been attacking MAGA Republicans. Do you think that this is having an influence on radical governors like Kathy Hochul?
I do. I think it starts at the top, and it starts with Joe Biden, and he has demonized tens of millions of Americans. He's certainly demonized my constituents, and it's just frankly wrong. This was a president who, on his inauguration, said he would bring the country together, and yet on day one, he has done everything and anything to further divide this country. I'm proud that when I'm on the ballot, I earn support not only from Republicans and conservatives, but independents and Democrats as well. The fact that Joe Biden is demonizing and going so far to the left, whether it's his gun control, his gun grabbing agenda, or whether it's the largest tax increase, the largest spending bill in our nation's history, Kathy Hochul is also running as far to the left. And when I say in November, while Joe Biden, the presidential, is not on the ballot, this is a referendum on how Joe Biden has failed, how Kathy Hochul has failed, and how their Democrat majorities, whether they're in the House or in Albany, have absolutely failed New Yorkers and the American people.
Yeah, the American people are fed up. And, we hear this administration, the vice president saying our border is secure. Karine Jean-Pierre saying people just don't walk across the border. The American people know otherwise. And they know otherwise when it comes to the most important issue in a lot of their minds right now. And that's the economy. It's inflation. And you got Biden today celebrating the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. I call it the Inflation Enhancement Act. But now we're seeing consumer price index numbers. They're out for the month of August. They're not good. Inflation rose more than expected. We're seeing 8.3%. I mean, how big of a concern should this be for Democrats heading into November?
It, of course, is a concern for the American people, and the Democrats are doing everything they can to try to change the subject. But I will tell you, in district and district across America, no matter where you look, the Midwest, the East Coast, the West Coast, inflation is the #1 concern of voters, because this is the highest rate of inflation that we've seen in 40 years. That's longer than my lifetime. As people are heading back to school, they're spending more for school supplies. Every week or every 2 weeks when they go to the grocery store, they continue to see those prices climb. This is a result, and people are smart. They understand this is a result of the reckless spending policies that we've seen both in Washington from one-party Democrat rule, but also in the state of New York and Albany with Democrat rule. So voters are going to vote for their economic issues, I believe, this November, which is one of the reasons why we have to have a red wave. We're going to have a red wave to save this country, save the economy, and save America.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of the great state of New York, we thank you for all the great work that you do. And thanks for joining us on Prime News tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.